is Beatrice. Welcome to The Big Issue. This morning we're looking at the recruitment into security services. We saw the Interior Minister give us breakdown of what transpired yesterday in that press conference, telling us that with about almost 500,000 of individuals who applied, they could only scroll it down to 105,000, and even out of that, they can only pick 5,000. We want to go into the reasons behind the figures we have, and really what happens to the rest of the individuals who are looking forward to getting employed as well. And of course, we would also be going into that announcement by the Land Ministry yesterday that the office intends to publish the names of individuals who purchased state lands specifically between the years 2017 and 2024. This is part of all the measures they are putting in place to ensure that there is proper accountability, transparency in the system, and a new way of ensuring that land administration in Ghana works for the interest of all. I do have on the panel with me our regular panelist, Madam Rotalyn Imora, Yana, Public Interest Advocate. Good morning to you, ma'am. It's great to have you.
It's always good to be here.
Yes, I have just on her right side, immediately after her, Madam Gabriela Tete, who is the Central Regional Communications Officer for the governing NDC. Good morning to you, ma'am. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, I do have as well, Madam.
NCU for what? She has forgotten your designation.
Pardon?
She didn't mention your designation, your most recent title.
Which is?
Oh, please, let's go on.
Okay, I'm about to introduce the woman who just spoke, Madam Rabbi Salifu, who is
Rabbi
Salifu. Actually, it's Rabiatu, short form of Rabiatu, Deputy Director of Communications for the opposition NPP. Good morning to you, ma'am. It's great to have you.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Ramadan Mubarak.
How do I respond?
You say Ramadan Kareem.
Ramadan Kareem. Thank you very much. We'll be joined by via video call by Mr. Richard Kumado, who is a security consultant, just to help us break this down as well. Ladies, thank you very much for joining us once again. I want us to watch the Interior Minister and the breakdown of the numbers yesterday as he addressed the press.
Develop something that will help. You may talk about how fair the thing is or how unfair it is, but what method are you going to use as a way of not using human interference? So that I look at you and say, okay, you can go. You are too short, you can't go. You are too fair, you can't go. That one is too tall. I mean, so you have to use a system that is devoid of human interference to enable the system to carry you to that end. Yes, I know the disappointment. I know the difficulty, but the issue is about joblessness and not issue about the security. And you, all of us know, you want to get a professional police officer. You want to get a professional immigration officer. You just don't want any person who will go in. I mean, I'm sorry to say this. We are having a challenge with people with mental issues in the service. You have people with drug issues in the service. All these things are things that you use, and through that, some people will fall along the way to enable you get, someone said, about the best of best. So I know a lot of young people may be disappointed, but they should exercise restraint. The president instructed that, look, those who qualify and pass medicals, let's keep the data. This is the first phase. We are hoping that maybe later in the, because remember this current recruitment that we are doing is a 2025 recruitment. Hopefully when we are out of the IMF, we could do the 2026. So we'll pick from that same data. Hopefully, if maybe it's past 6 months, then you can only ask them to repeat medicals, but not to start opening the process all over again. The police force that we have, the number that we have, just as I mentioned, 49,000 plus. Immigration, about 18,000 plus. Fire, about 17,000 plus. Prisons, about 14,000 plus. Narcotics control, about 3,000 plus. When you put all of them together, they are less than 100,000. They are less than 100,000. But even that, the wage bill on them is about 13 billion. So if the resources were there, I mean, I would have been the happiest person if we were able to recruit about 500,000 more security people. But let's be practical. Will our economy be able to absorb that? We all know that practically that is not possible. If you have a police of 50,000, can you really take 130,000 and add to an existing 49,000? So this is where we find ourselves, and I want to plead with the rank and file of our youth to appreciate that. That's why we introduce a number of other measures that we are hoping into the future may even help us as a way of screening them. Definitely you have to develop something that will help. You may talk about how fair the thing is or how unfair it is, but what method are you going to use as a way of not using human interference? So that I look at you and say, okay, you can go. You are too short, you can't go.
And you just watched the Interior Minister Muntaka Mohammed Mubarak giving us the reasons behind the 5,000. But just a bit more, he talked about how many people applied, about 500,000 Ghanaians. To the Immigration Service alone, there were about 180,000 applicants. To the Police Service, 130,000 applicants, and they could only pick 2,500. For Fire Service, 124,000 applicants, and also other areas as well, and the numbers, and eventually the 105 ready for medicals, and yet they can only pick 5,000. I'm coming to you first, Madam Gabriela Tete, because I mean this is coming at a time that we've already had the the World Economic Forum in its global risks report saying that unemployment is a serious problem, and yet the president also saying that a number of people had been employed.
Good morning to you once again, my fellow co-panelists, and to our viewers. Special good morning to the NDC in the Central. I don't know how if I said I've developed a coarse voice, but let's move on. Yes, unemployment has, for the greater part of the last decade, been a big challenge for all successive governments, and the current NDC administration is no exception to it. I mean, from the time that we're developing the manifesto, 2024 manifesto, the people, we made mention of initiatives aside security employment that will be made available to the young people. And those initiatives are already being deployed by the various agencies. We have the Ejumoro program with the NEIP. We have the apprenticeship program under the Youth Authority. We have the YEA also going through different kind of models together with support from private sector to create jobs for the youth. And of course, we've also have this security recruitment for those who are interested in joining the security. But what this tells you, listen to what the Interior Minister said, was that as a country, we need to be more particular about creating jobs for the youth. But it's worrying that 500,000 people are applying to positions that only 1% can be accepted to. That is worrying. We couldn't even make it even 10%, which would have been 50,000, because don't forget that recruitment into the security services is also an item on the central government's budget. And there's a limit to how much fiscal space government can take in recruiting more people into the public service. And that is why these initiatives, especially the youth-driven initiatives, are very important. Now, aside these youth-driven initiatives, I think that government rollout of some of the other programs that we've started, like the 24-hour economy bill, act that was passed by Parliament, we should quickly implement those programs so that the young people of this country can benefit. There is a challenge on our hands. Let nobody kid themselves that we don't have a youth unemployment issue. We do have a youth unemployment issue. The statistics indicate that well, between 20 to 22% of our young people are looking for jobs. And it is the reality. And that is what we have as a government since His Excellency John Dramani Mahama came into office, tried to focus his attention on. One of the reasons why they've been appointed so many young people is to create the impression to the young people that we have more vibrant young people here who understand you and are here to try and address your challenges. But as I said, 500,000 people applying for a position of just 5,000 is a big problem.
You're saying that
now, for us as a party, this has been a very big challenge for us over the last couple of days. Because, you see, when we go out to campaign, we go with promises we are going to help with jobs, and especially when you go into communities, and we assured people that we are going to now bring security positions, which was a very good thing, because initially the plan was that at least every district should have minimum about 2,000 people from those districts to help with the security of the districts across the whole country. And that would have been good opportunity for us to employ all these people. But government is limited in this fiscal year, especially under an IMF program. And so we're unable to actually execute that in its entirety. Now only 5,000 people can go in phase one. Those who have passed the test and now are going for medicals, we have 105,000 of them. What happens to the 105,000? The administration says that, okay, His Excellency instructed the Interior Minister that, okay, those who are not going to make it, we keep their names in the database for the next recruitment exercise.
He did mention it.
So they will no longer go through the process of buying forms, going through aptitude tests and all these things, because they've already pre-qualified for medicals. And then from that onset onwards, the next recruitment exercise, priority will be given to those people.
Yes, that's just an aspect of this whole employment sector that we're talking about. And if my data serves me right, the public sector can only employ about 7% of people who actually need jobs. You mentioned that we should quickly implement these policies, and these policies refer to the Ejumera you talked about, the National Apprenticeship Program.
They are currently ongoing.
What is stopping? Because you mentioned it like you're in government.
No,
so
I mean around the time. It means that currently, if we are doing 10,000 people who are rolling into a program, Ejumera alone, I think when they put out the application, over 116,000 people or so applied. That has to be corrected, but that was also a very serious number who applied for that program. And currently, government, I know that in Central Region, the coordinator for the National Apprenticeship Program is our Deputy Regional Youth Organizer. And almost every weekend, every other day, he's going to one district or the other to supply them with their equipment, hair dryers, carpentry equipment, tiling equipment, and all kinds of equipment at the various assemblies. So I have seen that program is being deployed, at least in my region. And I'm sure that it's going on in other regions as well. Under the NEIP, where we have the Ejumera program, last week, I know that the cohorts, one of the cohorts went for their interviews in Kaswa. So there too, there's some program going on. I also know that there are some people who have been accepted on the program, and a list came out, I think, 2-3 days ago, for the Gomoa Enclave districts, Gomoa Central, Gomoa East, and the rest. So those who made it in the initial phases. So all these projects are ongoing. But I looked at the number of people that need jobs and the applications. We need to find a way to up and make sure that their service, quote unquote.
Again, I go back to you being in government. When you say we need to find a way, I mean, how are you doing it? Because people say that, I mean, you've been in government for over a year now, and there are critics who say that by now we should see a bit more, although the government is being praised.
And as I mentioned, a lot of these initiatives is dependent on government's fiscal ability right now. And under a fund program where the limitations and trying to fix loopholes that Honorable Atto-Forson is doing, their allocation and the focus for those youth initiatives, at least, it's commendable that the government had the foresight to prioritize youth initiatives in this administration. Let's give the government credit for that. And now, as the year progresses, we've gone to 1 year. Yes, I've mentioned to you that if for nothing at all, I have seen those programs being deployed. I don't have the data on how many people have actually benefited from it yet, because I haven't sought that data. And I won't come and sit here and exaggerate on data. But I'm sure that if we probe the various coordinators who are responsible for these programs and the Ministry of Youth and Manpower, they'll be able to tell us how many have been serving so far. Because I know for a fact that they are giving out those equipment in my region. And I know for a fact that those who went for the interviews under the NEIP programs, their lists have come out. And whatever support that they are supposed to give them, because mind you, the NEIP tomorrow program has different business initiatives under it. So I can't come and sit here and say, oh, and they are tiling businesses or they are hairdressers and seamstresses. You have to probe from the actual agencies which sectors have shown interest and the actual support that's given them. But the most important thing is that government is prioritizing job creation. And it's not just about 500,000 young people chasing after 5,000 job opportunities. There are other initiatives, other projects going on that give the opportunity to young people to also find something to do. Aside that, I also forgot to mention about even the initiatives in agriculture. In Central Region, the last time the district as yes, the district, what they call it, this Assembly Common Fund Secretariat, asked the various assemblies to identify locations where they can build irrigation projects in their next budget cycle. And all the districts in Central Region are all trying to identify locations where they can have these irrigation dams to support commercial farming or large-scale farming in their district. So it's a process that is ongoing, but as I said, the reason why I said that this has to be ramped up is because we have to attach more seriousness to it. And mind you, the issue of youth unemployment, every year, since 2012, 2013, this country has been releasing onto the job market not less than 450,000 people. And these people are falling out from secondary school, JSS, primary school into JSS, JSS into secondary school, into university. As they grow and they move up, so many of them keep falling on the sides. And all these people need different categories of jobs. That was why in the time of the first administration of His Excellency John Mahama, we even came up with the day schools, the concept of the day schools, to allow us to, in the shortest possible term, create more opportunities so that those who are falling off the education ladder from the JSS can be absorbed back into the educational system and gives us more time. But consistently, at least, if for nothing at all, let's give the government some credit that we have all these initiatives currently being rolled out in our various districts. And as I mentioned, I have seen it physically.
And I will come back to the rest of the panel in the studio here, but I want us to get a quick understanding of really what's going on. And we're joined by Richard Kumado, who is a security consultant. Mr. Kumado, if you can hear us, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Beatrice.
Help us understand really this recruitment process again, which obviously eventually is going to pick 5,000 out of the 1,500 individuals. And I'm asking you this because yesterday, when the Interior Minister held that press conference, he came under criticism for some of the details he gave us.
Now, definitely, there wouldn't be any problem with the security recruitment if the minister has not come to take the centralized position. He has no business doing that, and he brought this upon himself. What are the basic parameters for security recruitment? Beatrice, as you speak, the military are recruiting people. There's no brouhaha in the public space about it. The BNI is recruiting people, and there's no brouhaha in the space about it. But because he introduced a third-party vendor into the recruitment agency, for which the security agencies themselves have not asked for, it's creating some level of fear that the agency handlers are afraid and they don't know what the minister is dragging them into. And so this is the basic procedure. When you want to recruit people, it's basically 4 stages. The first stage is that people buy forms manually or automatedly. The second stage is that they go for document verification and examination. They can do it manually or automatedly. The third stage is aptitude test. The aptitude test can be done manually or automatedly. When you do it manually, you are using pen and paper for which somebody will have to sit down and mark. But when you use a digitalized platform in a competitive environment such as ours, where there's a lot of suspicion, The best practice of digitalized examination or computer-based dictates that once people complete the test and they submit, you are supposed to display their scores. They did not do that, and that raised red flag and vulnerabilities. After you came back after many days and tell the applicants that you have qualified, you have been qualified, you have been disqualified, people are asking what is the score? And that was where the minister got it wrong and created a problem for him. The last stage of the recruitment procedure is that there has to be vetting. At the vetting stage, you are going to do three things. You are doing medicals, you are doing background checks, and you are doing interviewing. The company the minister brought to do the digitalized platform do not have the capacity to do the vetting for the security agencies. Why? Because in this country, there are only two agencies mandated to do background checks on behalf of the state. That is the police and the BNI. So the question you ask is that this is a third-party vendor within the security management environment. Has the BNI and the police and immigration finished their background checks on this company before they start the process? Has the Attorney General signed the data protection legal agreement with the company before the data was handed over to the company? And who is going to pay? Is it the monies from the applications of the children, which run into about 100 million plus, that is going to be used? Or the agencies under the ministry is going to be used to pay the vendor, for which the ministries or the agencies did not ask for? And Beatrice, are we saying that the police do not have capacity to employ 3,000 people on their own without the interference of the minister and the ministry? Are we saying that immigration today, the leadership of immigration, do not have capacity to employ 1,000 people? I think the minister brought this upon himself, and I will also urge him to stop speaking, because the more he speaks, his words are not aligning with the expectations of the applicants, and that is why we have this problem on our hand.
It seems that the minister, others say that could be in a difficult situation where he talks about the fact that if you look at the numbers of these security agencies, those that are already working, they need more, but the economy doesn't allow us to. And they needed to bring in a mechanism so they could only pick how many they thought they could.
He got the mechanism wrong, Beatrice. He got it wrong. Do you know how many people have applied to the BNI? Do you know how many people have applied to the military? Do you know how many people have applied to join Yoko? The agencies, the security agencies not under the Ministry of Interior. Do you know how many people have applied? When I was joining the BNI many years ago in the 80s, we wrote aptitude tests. So computer-based test is a simple thing you do. And in the 21st century, whether you take it in a centralized pool or you take it remotely, you are supposed, in line with best practice, to disclose that score. You didn't do it, and the minister used a word. I don't know why they keep on bringing the president into the picture when Tornado told them not to do so. When you said that the president told you that those who qualify for medicals will be the ones to be given priority in next year, your grassroots is listening, the applicants are listening, and they will say that, why then do you disqualify us at the aptitude test stage? Because by your analogy, that you have to bring in a strategy to streamline the process, the people are saying that you manipulate the process and you massage it. And that is why people are bringing issues about AI. AI has nothing to do with this. It's a computer-based test, and the right approach will have to be deployed. He got it wrong and ran the whole system into trouble. And even today, the agencies themselves are worried and troubled because they don't know what is dragging them into. We could have done this without any problem. We could have done this without any interference, and they will still achieve the objective of government in this regard.
Let me get clarity again before we move on. You say, and I'm referring again to what the minister said, the economy restricts how many people we can employ. And then he also talks about the IMF conditionalities and even goes on to refer to how much we're already paying in terms of wage bill for those who are currently employed, about 13 billion. Are you saying that irrespective of these, the minister still got the 5,000 number wrong? There could be more?
It's not the duty of the minister to come and tell us how many people they are employing to the service. It's not the duty of the Minister of Interior to come and be telling us how much government is paying. It's not the duty of the minister to come and tell us how many workforce we have and how many we needed most. But let's even say that the minister said we need to take 5,000 people into the agencies under him. The approach he adopted is wrong. The strategy he put in place is wrong. And there was no exigency, there was no emergency for the minister to take a centralized position and give us a third-party vendor whose background has not been checked, and he threw it onto the security agencies. And Beatrice, that is why I'm saying that if the minister says that the agencies under him are going to employ 5,000 people, do you know how many people the BNI is employing? Do you know how many people Yoko will employ? Do you know how many people the military is employing? Because these agencies are National Security Council institutions that are not directly under the Minister of Interior. He got it wrong. And the better he stops speaking, the better it is for him.
Mr. Kumado, you should admit that in as much as you may have information, the minister might also have information regarding the state of our purse and other issues that we have that you may not be privy to, which is the reason he gave us what he did.
5,000 people. If we are taking 5,000 people, it has nothing to do with your purse. How then do you justify, how then do you qualify those who are going to make the 5,000 list? Where are they going to come from? And where do they come from? You have just disappointed the applicants and everybody. We are not talking about money here. In any case, when it comes to the payment of this particular third-party vendor and the strategy he brought, has the Minister of Finance approved for the budget? And when the minister approved, did the minister tell him or say to him how they should get the 5,000 people? And who are these 5,000 people? These applicants are not asking for money. They are not talking about 6,000 or 7,000. But you gave a caveat of 5,000 people. And you screwed up the process to favor some people and to disadvantage certain people. And that is where the cry is coming from. We have done this job for many years, and we cannot get it wrong this particular time around. Because the nature of what we are doing, number one, is creating national security issues. Number two, is creating communication problems for the outlook of the security agencies. Number three, the agencies are afraid. They don't know what the minister is dragging them into. And number four, it doesn't look right and it doesn't look fair. And the objective is wrong and it is screwed up. The minister do not need to come into this space to be telling us about many of the things he's saying. And the earlier he stops speaking, the better it is for him and the government. The earlier he takes himself out of the space and allow the agencies under him to do the recruitment, the better it is for him and his government. God knows I am saying it, and I have said it for many years. And I have said it properly, effectively, consistently, persistently. He got it wrong. And that is the genesis of this whole matter.
Mr. Kumado, how do you say the minister screwed up the process when in his explanation, hold on, Mr. Kumado. In his explanation, he said that we try to reduce human interference. So we digitalized the process. How did that eventually...
He said that what strategy are you going to put in place in order to extract the number? It means that the minister doesn't know the strategy. He has no strategy. The minister says that he wants to reduce human interference. Are you saying that the police as we have today, with the biggest IT center we have, cannot have a basic IT structure that would eliminate human structure, human element? Go to the National Health Insurance and go and look at the simple mechanism they are using, which eliminates human error and human elements into it. Go to the other government agencies and go and look at the simple, basic database management structure they have that is eliminating human error. And that is why I said that I have been trained to interpret human emotions and to interpret communication. If I interpret to you the nature of the things the minister said and the negative implications, it is huge on government. The minister must be told to stop speaking. It is not adding up. Beyond, is unfair.
Beyond what the minister says is what is the issue that we're currently facing, unemployment. It still boils down to the fact that a number of people would not have the jobs they thought they would. And just my last but one question to you. I was earlier talking about the World Economic Forum's Global Risks Report, which actually said that unemployment or a lack of economic opportunity could pose as Ghana's biggest risk in 2026, irrespective of the fact that we're seeing economic gains. Again, there's also some data coming from the Ghana Statistical Service, which even talks about those who are employed and said that 7 out of 10 of individuals who are employed are in insecure jobs. For you as a security consultant, looking at the huge numbers of people who are unemployed and this latest development, what do you see as the ramifications of what we have on our hands now?
You see, politics again have created a problem for the outlook of the national security architecture. But if we are talking about employment, whether to the formal sector or the informal sector, I heard my sister Gabrieli talking about initiative government has put in place, and the aggregate of that will create some level of jobs. We need to change the narrative, and we need to act properly. Because if you are talking about employment, the security agencies are not the only avenue for employment. And that is why you hear me screaming and passionate about it. We are not allowing the security agencies to employ based on the need. The security agencies need people with specialized background, irrespective of who they are and where they come from and whichever party they belong to. The president said that in the 69 Independence Address, that we need to build a nation that irrespective of where you come from, you have opportunity to serve and to be employed. There are various ways of doing it. Beatrice, my first job and my professional career was employment and labor relations at the Department of Labor. When people are employing people, sensitive organizations in Ghana and abroad are sitting as a recruitment consultant. So I'm speaking from a well-known position, research into it. There are various ways government can employ people. Because we do not have the data for government agencies to put up a coherent and aggregate data for people to know how many people they have employed, the number seems very evasive. Other than that, I am aware the consistency and the aggregate numbers going up in some of the agencies when the NDC government came to power and when the NPP government left power. We need to work on those things and do not put our eyes on the security agencies as the only source of employment. We know that unemployment is a major issue, and that is why the public sector needs to come to the show. And that is why when you concluded the year with a deficit, with a surplus in your forest is going up and your inflation is coming down and your macroeconomic environment is great, it means that the interest people pay when they borrow from the banks is coming down, and you can encourage them to create more jobs where people will form partnerships and aggregates to be able to employ themselves or get a job experience somewhere. You do not use the security agencies as a sure way of giving them the jobs. You will do that and succeed, but in the long run, the state is not benefiting from the dividend of employing people, and there are strategic ways of doing that.
Mr. Kumado, I would want you to hold on. I need to get the thoughts of the panel here in studio. Madam, I wanted to get your thoughts earlier because huge numbers of people who are unemployed must be a concern for all of us.
Beatrice, good morning to you and good morning to my sisters here. You see, listening to Kumado and then earlier submission by Gabi, and also having done some quick research on this and all that the minister said yesterday, adding it up to what the sentiment or the entire temperature of the youth is in this country, all I can say is run, run, run. Or when they say run, 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 it means there is what? Fire on the mountain. You see, when you start to deceive people, and when you start to speak to the unrealistic issue, especially as a government communicator, it becomes so difficult for you. And for this week, I really don't envy any government communicator on this issue specifically, because you've just listened to Kumado. I was only held aback a bit when I was trying to follow his commentary, tying it up to how objective I expected him to have been, and also disassociation of emotions and some reactions. But
you
of
don't
course,
think he was objective?
But of course, I'm just telling you, I'm just speaking on my expectation and listening to him as somebody who is supposed to be a security analyst, and then somebody who is supposed to be one of the neutrals in this country. I have followed him over the years. I know what he's been about largely. And then I'm quite, I won't say happy, but confused with his approach this morning.
What are you insinuating? I want to understand.
But all this, I'll come. Just come with me. You get me clear. I want to start from the process, what is happening and how we feel as Ghanaians. And we've been told to be citizens and not spectators. Now, my sister said it. And I'm so happy that the minister came speaking instead to the public, but to I don't know whether he was addressing NDC foot soldiers. I don't know who exactly he was speaking with or to, but if you listened to him, he was actually apologizing to his grassroots base, which of course kind of goes against our constitutional requirements when you look at Article 17. And also when you go to look at the Labor Act that Kumado spoke about, the Act 203, Act 615, it talks about equality, talks about fairness, talks about transparency. Now with this whole scam, I call it scam. This whole recruitment process that Kumado even thinks the minister shouldn't be speaking on.
You're using the word the minority leader used that he later apologized for.
I do agree with the minority leader.
But he apologized for it, meaning
well,
that
maybe
he
in context,
he was wrong.
maybe in context. I am still calling it a scam. He probably apologized in context. And if we are contextualizing our conversation, I don't shape it according to somebody's apology and somebody's thinking. It goes to my opinion and the position as well. What I am telling you is that we all know that unemployment issue is not new in this country. Successive governments, like my sister mentioned, have suffered this. And for a government or a party that spoke on entire reset, that gave the youth of this country great assurance that, look, what you are going through today would never be experienced when we come back to power. And what makes their case worse is what the youth of Ghana saw from the period of 2012 to 2016 or 15. And then today what they have started experiencing, and maybe, I don't pray they fail, and maybe yet to experience. Now, I always see His Excellency John Dramani Mahama as someone who is on a redemption ride. But I don't know what is worrying the implementation process from the 2024 manifesto, what was stated, which I have this morning, and I'll give you the sections and points that I will be speaking to, versus what we are seeing on the ground. Now you know that IMF is something that we need to exit peacefully. You knew the figures we were battling with. You knew how Ghanaians were so unhappy with us on IMF, on borrowing and all that. So you had the figures. You spoke to the figures. And you understood exactly the task. That's why you told Ghanaians you were coming to do better. So I and some other person watching me, and the disappointed people, the minister, the youth, the young people of this country, over 100,000 of them who have been disappointed, calling for the minister's reaction, will tell you that you knew what the situation was, went on to promise me. When the NDC was promising, what prevented the NDC from understanding that, look, although we agree that you need to be served, although your plight must be attended to, we as well will tell you that this is what we will do through this. For instance, you're talking about 250,000 security recruitment. You could have just told the youth that, look, for the first year, given the figures we are looking, and when we come, we are pretty sure we will be able to do around 4,000 to 5,000.
And hold on, I would let you continue, but I want you to hold on. You're using some strong words this morning. You've even talked about the government deceiving Ghanaians.
But that's not a
why
lie.
people
That's
are
not
very,
a lie. It's so deceptive.
very. If I could land,
They've been very deceptive.
If I could land, you're
Yes.
saying that the government has been very deceptive.
Yes.
You're saying that the government promised and yet is not delivering, and you're even calling this whole process a scam.
Yes.
Of course, disagreeing with what I tried to bring
Yes.
in earlier,
And I'm
that the minority
expatiating
said
all
it,
my
and
statements.
minority leader said it, and
Yes.
and apologized. Are you being fair to a government that has been in power for just 1 year, whereas these issues that you're talking about were brought on by the government that exited before this government that is in for just 1 year?
Beatrice, I'll pride myself, and I would say I'm one of the fairest communicators so far to this government. And I'll tell you, the last time I sat here with Auntie Rhoda, when the gender minister did the right thing, you remember, on the child theft issue, I sat here, commended her, commended the government. I went on the sister station and spoke about what the government was doing right. I actually don't really argue blindly, and I don't just condemn when I don't need to condemn. I am telling you this morning that these guys have been deceptive, and I'm repeating it. Why I am saying that is where I was bringing you to. You know, you have the figures. You have spoken about it. You deliberately sat and sold forms to close to over 100 million cedis, knowing very well that you just had limited slots of about 5,000 that you will be recruiting. Now, what we expected was to have some realistic quota sent out that, look, the government at this particular moment promised to do security recruitment. But from where we sit and looking at the figures, we are able to recruit 5,000 or around 5,000, even if you want to give it some flexibility, so that the young people applying would be going. And I wouldn't have had problem even if the forms were 10,000. You know why? So that you will know that the window is opened for only 10,000 people who would apply, and that would have made it competitive. You understand? So that when they apply and you realize that about 10,000 people have applied already, you close the window and say, look, given the number of applicants versus the quota we have, we will be able to process this 10,000 so that other people who would have used their money to go and apply for this same process, the same opportunity that you will not give them, or that will not be available for them, wouldn't go and waste that money.
Madam Selifu, again, you expect...
Because you said it was, Kumado said it. He said the whole system was given to a consultant who was using a computerized process for this. So tracking the number of applicants was so easy. You could do it real time. Okay, so far on this day, this so number of people have applied. And you knowing that you are doing a cap of 10,000, you obviously wouldn't be stretching people to go through.
You expected this exercise to be done manually?
I'm not saying manually, I just mentioned computerized.
Computerized.
And I said, and that is what they are doing. So if that is what they are doing, I'm only telling you that they could just track and know that so far we've had 10,000, 20,000, 15,000, so that you don't get over 100,000 young people applying when you know you don't have the slots for them.
I want to...
And that one, I am saying it for us to all learn, both NDC and PP, that look, some of these things can really be transparent and communicated effectively, so that when we know we have 10,000, just 5,000, you could just allow only about 15 or 10,000 to apply because of the competition that will come with it. Then you would have known that just about half of the number couldn't make it, whilst half made it.
I want to go...
And if indeed we want to go by their words that those who couldn't make it will be carried forward in the nearest future, then it would have meant that the half number or the rest of the people who couldn't go through but have qualified would have as well been given the assurance that, look, the next phase would have been you. So that the rest of the numbers who would have wasted their time following up on or even going online to check where am I, they don't even know their fate. They come to tell you you've been approved, you are pending, you are whatever. they would have channeled their energy elsewhere.
I want to ask you this question before I come to Madam Ayana, and of course you have the opportunity to have your final word. But if I get your argument, it looks like you expected the government to fulfill these promises that you just mentioned.
Let me take
in a year. Just a second.
Let me not in a year. I did this. Don't
no,
distort.
But
I don't
you're
like
saying,
it when you distort it. No,
I'm not distorting
no.
You
see, even that. Don't
Yes.
say in a year. Don't put false words
you're
under
saying
my
that
throat.
the government
I never
has
spoke.
deceived
I
Ghanaians.
never spoke to any timeline. I am talking on the modalities.
Okay.
And Kumado just mentioned it.
I'm talking about
The minister himself is speaking to the disappointment
That is fine.
of
I'm
these
talking-
people. And I am telling you,
Yes.
Beatrice, that whether 10 years, 8 years, 5 years, the takeoff has been deceitful. Because you knew, even if we are just speaking within the 1 year frame, you knew that you didn't have the capacity to recruit over 100,000. Why did you allow them to apply?
Yes.
You saw them paying monies when you knew how many you could recruit. Why not say, okay, let's just do this number, let's work with this number, so that the rest that would have used their money to apply wouldn't come. Now, the over 100 million, is the ministry willing to come and tell us, just like the minister did yesterday, how and what that money will be used for?
So I am
Secondly,
asking,
I want to tell you something.
I haven't
the
finished.
NDC, I know you haven't finished,
Yes,
and you've
so let
given me
me-
the opportunity to also make my point. So I'm making my point. I want to take you to chapter 6 of the NDC manifesto. And when you look at 6.4, that's 6.4, there are about 14 points beneath 6.4. And all these 14 points are directing towards, or are just geared towards, doing what? Reforming the security service. Now, I get partly why some people are reacting the way they are doing. You know why? Because the same NDC that told us, and the heading is what? Public safety and security. That is 6.4 if you have it with you. And it is so clear that the NDC was so sure about what they wanted to do with the security service. When you look at the points beneath, I won't stretch you so much because you are too eager to go to the next point. I want you to look at the point 7. That says what? Embark on public awareness campaign to educate citizens about online safety and cybersecurity best practices. Now, this whole thing is about the online and cybersecurity and all that. When the whole practice, the processes started, we first of all heard of allegations. I'm bringing it to a point. We heard of allegations and red flags raised by the, the leader, the minority leader, Afenyo Martins in Parliament, telling us that there is something going on in the security service.
I'm not sure you can refer to a statement that has been withdrawn.
He said, no, he didn't withdraw that. He
No,
raised
but
the red flag.
for it.
He raised the red flag. I'm coming. He raised a red flag. And even if you want to tell me, let's retract it because he apologized, I'll still tell you that this same process that we all are crying with hasn't been transparent.
And
I am again telling you, look, the same NDC in their promise told us that they were going to decentralize this security recruitment process. It's still in the manifesto. And by that, they said they were going to send teams to each of the 16 regions.
Okay, now let me come in with a question I wanted to ask you. You made a point about promise. And so the understanding is that it's not restricted just to the recruitment within the security service. And I wanted...
That's why I took you specifically to the
That's fine. I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that when you said deceptive, the government has been deceptive, I talked about the fact that this is a government that has been in power for 1 year. I wasn't saying that you said 1 year. So I wanted to make that point clear. And again, I was saying that the government, based on what the Interior Minister said, talked about the challenges or the current situation of the country. And I was going to go back to the fact that you're saying the government has been deceptive.
You need clarity on that.
Wait, hold on.
They told us. Let me
Madam,
help you.
Let me help you. I will have to wait. I think that I have to make my point, and then you can come in. And I'm saying that this is a government that came in and met an unemployment rate of over 13%. If you look at the breakdown of the unemployment rate as at the last quarter of 2024, the ages of 15 to 24, they had about 32% to 34% of people who were not employed. And again, you're talking about a government that had 8 years to also transform the employment situation of the country. You had one district, one factory, you had Planting for Food and Jobs, Nation Builders Corps, National Alternative Employment and Livelihood Programs, a whole lot of programs that you had within 8 years. And that is why I asked you the question earlier. Although you didn't mention 1 year, what the point I was making was that you're saying the government has been deceptive, and this government has been in power for 1 year, and you had 8 years, and yet you left an employment rate of over 13%.
Beatrice,
unemployment rate.
I get you. One, the NDC gave us a clear word and impression that, look, we are resetting. And resetting simply means, and I do go back to my first word, look,
you can respond briefly.
I do agree with my point that, look, the NDC told us they know how to do it better. They told Ghanaians that these guys are not really doing their thing. My sister Gabi here, I've sat with her on several platforms, telling us that, look, Rabbi, you guys should shut up. We will come and teach you how to do it. So if you say, like, look, we are coming to reset, we are coming to do everything very well, unlike you people, and today you are not doing it with your own sympathizers telling you we are disappointed in you, then I find it deceptive. Two, let me tell you, in 2017-2018 alone, youth in agriculture, did you hear about forestry? You heard that forestry. The youth model that the Forestry Commission was implementing. Only this period alone, about 26,500 young people were already recruited and were already on the field planting trees, taking care of our green Ghana and all that they were doing with the Forestry Commission. What I am telling you is that if you told me that you were coming to do better and your better from onset is not giving me the impression that you do better, I would say I find you deceptive. We admitted. We came to say, look, NDC say they can. Ghanaians have listened to them. We agree. We have conceived defeat. We even went on, including myself, on this particular station, telling the entirety of Ghana that, look, we didn't get everything right. We are sorry for all that we did. But trust you, we did so many things that nature and time will tell. So what I am telling you this morning is that if I say they have been deceptive, they have been deceptive, and I'm judging that from their onset.
From their onset. Please, very briefly, and because Madam Imoro hasn't spoken.
A lot of gibberish with very little facts. Beatrice, number one, we were in this country when security recruitment were done at the blind side of the citizens of this country. We were here, please. We were here when people were selling recruitment for 20,000 Ghana cedis. Every person who has attempted to sell recruitment under this current regime has been arrested. We were here in this country. On average, the security services take about 10,000 people in annually. We have told you that the current situation that the government found itself in when we took office has forced us to limit the number of jobs we can create. One thing you have heard across all, please. One thing you have heard across all the sectors is the one word which, as much as it annoys with the party people, we understand it because of the state of the government that we've brought into power. It's clearance. So many of the agencies are unable to employ because of issues of clearance, and it all boils down back to government budgets and what governments can make allocation for. Of what use is recruitment into employment opportunities where the people, you cannot even pay them, and before you know, the next thing that is on government's hand is strike and disruption of public services. Who wants that on their heads? So government says, under the current circumstances, we can only do 5,000. We accept. We are not happy about it, but we understand the situation that government finds itself. 5 of my people were on this list. All of them disqualified. These are people who work for party and for me, including even the guy who does my graphics for me. He went on strike at one point because he thought I wasn't pushing for him. And how could I push for him? The whole thing is on an IT system. You said we should, if we know that we're taking 5,000 people, we should have limited the number of people to employ to 10,000. The best approach is what government did.
You don't think that was a valid point she made?
No. You know why? Because now the 500,000 has shown us that the problem that we are faced is bigger than if we had allowed 10,000. And it's better you face that monster head on and try and fix that monster than to lie to yourself that we allowed 10,000 people to apply. Now, let's do something.
Before the NDC won power, you knew that the country had issues with unemployment.
Exactly.
Did you need this to see
exactly.
the numbers?
And I'm telling you that since I came to Switcher this morning, I've told the various initiatives that we are deploying. I just was chatting with Eric KJ on how many his departments have been able to train under their Ejumero program. The target was that they trained 10,000, and now from next week they are going to start the grants allocation to 2,000 entrepreneurs. So at least from his side, they are doing something. I've told you about, if for nothing at all, the list that I know is in Gomoa Central, because that is the region where I come from. I've told you about the equipment that are being supplied and the National Apprenticeship Program. I've texted Osman. I'm waiting for Osman's reply so I can give you the data. Now, you were in this country. You are telling us that in our manifesto, we said we were going to reset. Yes, this is the reset. The reset was a new centralized system that did not have any human interference. That is why me, as a party executive, even though I am fuming inside, I have no choice than to accept the fact that my people did not make it.
But it's also a fact what Madam Salifu said, that a number of the NDC people are aggrieved. We've seen the chairman of the party
our people didn't make it.
Saying
but that is the centralized system. That is the centralized system that was created. There was no human intervention. We could not get anybody to pass our people through. And so we'll go and take our grievances to the government and we'll complain to government. That is behind the scenes. When we go inside, we'll go and fight our fight inside. But now we are not happy. But what can we do? It's our government that is in power. And our government says that this is what we can do. But we will not allow that data to just go off, and then so the remaining data, we are keeping that data, and the next window of opportunity that comes, we are giving these people the opportunity. Again, there are still other, I was also to the insurance minister yesterday, and there are still other initiatives that he said they can roll on. This community police, under the YEA program that Malik has been showing in their own special uniform, they are going to increase the numbers in those areas. So all these other young people will still have avenues to get into some form of security employment, because that is where their interest is.
She talked about how much money the government made, for instance, through the numbers of people.
Yes, it's good you reminded me on that issue. I'm going to add my voice to those who want those monies to be refunded. Because I think that it is unfair to charge unemployed people and benefit from them at a time when your priority is to create jobs. The least you can do for them is to refund their monies back to them. So I think that those who did not make it, government, you have their data, bulk SMS their monies back to them.
Madam Ayana, you haven't spoken on this at all. Please, you have the floor.
Well, I'd like to say good morning. Good morning to our cherished viewers and to Ghanaians. Quite an interesting discussion we are having here. It all has to do with employment and our youth. And for me, I will always put it at the doorsteps of our educational system. We have an educational system that I would always say is a system that is actually a weapon of mass destruction. If I am to look at what happened yesterday from the Interior Minister's pronouncements, and I know the disappointment, I know that feeling. But then at the end of it all, we all have to ask ourselves, why is it that we have such huge numbers just looking for security agencies? Every young person wants to go into one security agency or the other. So it's become, government has to provide jobs. Government has to create jobs. Government has to make sure that people get jobs. Is that the right way to go? I'm just asking. Because for us to have an educational system that can take someone, for someone to say, I am a graduate, and then for that person to be sitting down, maybe sitting at home for 5, 10 years, waiting on government to give that person employment, is that education? What kind of education are we giving to our young people? This is where the problem is. It is not a question of how many people are going into the services, how many should have been given the authority to apply. It's a question of what are our young people being taught in our schools? What tools are we giving them to face the world? So should it be that everyone coming out of school now should be dependent on government for a job? That is not the way to go. So I think that if you are to go back and look at things that have happened, the NPP prides itself with always being the political party that brings what you call social interventions. And the social interventions within the last 8 or so or 9 years that the NPP government brought is so huge. We shouldn't even have had to be talking about a lot more people being unemployed. Because if you look at a situation, I'm just looking at the Youth Employment Agency. We have NAPCO. NAPCO alone was such a big program of about what? Ghana Cares, that's what after COVID-19. So within 5 years, no, let's say from 7 years, about that, or something like that, we're looking at a situation where our country has young people looking for jobs, when about 100 billion, allegedly, was spent on NAPCO alone. So what jobs were we creating for the millions of young people around?
So it was inaugurated on the 1st of May 2018.
2018. So after that, money was voted for young people to create jobs, to kind of like build up people. What happened? We had national alternative employment and livelihood program that was to take charge of Galamsey, youth in Galamsey, those who were there. We had the district road improvement, which came later on. We had so many programs, very laudable programs, social intervention programs from the MPP, but we got nothing for it.
Nothing.
Yes. We got nothing because if something came out, we wouldn't be having such huge numbers. We didn't get anything.
I think the main problem with NAPCO was that they didn't seem to have a continuation plan.
One district, one factory. How many factories were built? Then later we are told that it was not supposed to have been factories built, but factories were supposed to have been helped. So one district, one factory, one village, one dam, one whatever. At the end of it, what did we get? All the monies that we spent on these social intervention programs, we should have been seeing some progress in our employment situation. But all I'm saying is, these are young people who are looking for jobs. Situations have been, we had avenues that had been created to give them those jobs. And still, we are where we are. So at the end of it, you ask yourself, why didn't we just decide to open up or roll out a dole system like the UK? Instead of putting the money there and not getting anything, we should have just put the money there, maybe used it to buy some bonds or something, and then young people would enroll and then go there and every month collect some money and go home until they get a job. Maybe that is what we should have done with the money. Because at the end of the day, we had so many things, so many interventions, but still young people are asking for jobs. But the thing is this, we have to reform our educational system. We cannot continue to be doing the same things and expect that it will get better. Everybody who is doing business administration, and you ask, you're doing business administration. In developed worlds, people do business administration to come out and do business for themselves. We do business administration, human resource option, business administration, accounts option, and we are looking for government to issue jobs for us. Where are the jobs? How many human resource personnel can a ministry take? How many accounting personnel can a ministry take? All these things just boil down to the fact that we are not putting the right things in place. Even if you look at the colonial system, you even come back to Kwame Nkrumah's regime. We inherited the middle school system. When you came out of middle school, you could do a job. When you came out of middle school, you could at least create something for yourself. Even when we got to the ordinary level system, Uncle Enu came out of just a system that taught her how to make marmalade. And she started making marmalade, and it's become a household word. Today, we have people with doctorate in this, professor in this, and yet we are suffering. There is something wrong with our educational system. There is something that we are not actually encouraging the youth on. Our youth are looking down on jobs. You come out and nobody, I think we should start giving them fancy names. You know, when I was in school, our carpentry master said it's wood technology. We don't say carpentry anymore. We should say wood technology. You understand? We should give fancy names, because maybe with the fancy names, our young people would be willing to do that. How about agriculture? Maybe government should go out there and acquire more lands, you know, service them and give them out to young people to do some agricultural work.
But it doesn't it go down to, I mean, aside from the fancy names, it also talks about how secure these jobs are. Again, I earlier referred to data from the Ghana Statistical Service, and one of the areas where it said job was insecure was in agriculture. 95% of people involved didn't feel secure.
Well, it's because maybe the way we are looking at it, maybe the way we do our agriculture is what, because if you're going to have agriculture as a business, you must be looking at least looking at the processing aspect of it, the marketing aspect of it, and all that goes with it. It's not just going to take your hoe and go and, like what we are experiencing now, where there's a glut of local rice. You understand? They have not probably done enough market survey. And I told myself, I said, you know what? I don't understand how we can even have a glut in local rice. If I were them, you know, we would decide as a group not to plant so much and then create a shortage and get good prices for our products. You understand? If I were them, because at the end of it, you are producing so much and still it's not being sold, and you are expecting government to buy, to do what with it? So government says senior high schools must buy from local farmers. But then how much can the senior high schools take from the local farmers? You understand? But all these aside, if I get back again to the security agencies, I get very worried. I get very worried because it takes a different kind of person to be a security personnel. It's not just anybody on the streets. That is why we have certain qualifications and characteristics. And I listened to the minister and he says, look, even the ones that we've had, we have people who have mental issues, people who have drug issues. You get me? And we are in a country where of late we find our youth doing so many things that is not right, and we are even afraid to confront them.
As in the use of opioids?
Exactly. Do you understand? At the end of it, you're looking at our youth. They said no tattoos for military. Young people like tattoos. So if you go and do tattoos and you want to get into the army or some security agency and they are not taking you, whose fault is it? Or if you decide to bleach and they are not taking people with stretch marks and bleaching, whose fault is it? These are things that we have caused for ourselves. So we have to be able to also talk to the young people to also make them responsible for themselves, for their actions. Because you cannot do certain things and expect that because Ebiama was so I have to get the job. No, you must qualify for the job. It's very important that you qualify for the job. And at the end of it all, it is not a question. I would like for Ghanaians to know that recruitment into the security services is not partisan. It is not supposed to be partisan.
But we've politicized
Yeah, we've politicized it, but it's not supposed to be. I mean, these are people who are going to work for the state. It's not for any political party. So why should it be like somebody feeling that we are going to favor this? I'm so glad, Gabriela Teta was saying that even hers, people that she had even sponsored couldn't make it. It just goes to show you that the thing is a transparent deal. And that's how it's supposed to be. So at the end of it all, I think that we should not politicize all these issues. We should look at it as a national problem. We have young people out there who do not have jobs, and we need to make available jobs. How do we go about it?
How do we go about it, Madam Salifo? And if you could touch a bit on the education and perhaps the way forward, very briefly, and I'll get a final thought of Madam Gabriela Teta as well on this.
Before I even touch on the education, what I want to say is that if you call out somebody on inaccurate facts, you should be willing to provide the accurate facts. You call it gibberish, you call it inaccurate, no counter. You haven't been able to pull out which part of my submission that was incorrect. And you know what? Since the president got fact-checked by a whole My Joy Online with other Ghanaians on figures concerning jobs in this country, I have never taken for granted whatever fact I am putting out. Because if His Excellency John Mahama can't be fact-checked as the President of the Republic, why will anybody take the risk?
That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, of course. So why would any communicator like myself take the risk of also coming to lie like he did? I wouldn't do that. And whatever figure I mention here, I make sure I cross-check that. Now on NAPCO, the over 100,000, you told me not to speak when you are talking.
Go ahead.
The over 100,000 young people who benefited, who got internship, who got training, who came out to testify, are still grateful to the government of Akufo-Addo. We should always be fair to say, yes, you did, but you didn't do enough. That one, everyone will take it. Because even till tomorrow, no government or no leader in this world will be able to come and say, I am addressing all the challenges or I'm fulfilling all my manifesto promises. So what I am telling you is that if work was done, if you felt dissatisfied, fair enough, you can talk about your expectation and not meeting your expectation, what you expected to have been done or the numbers you expected to have been covered, than to just sit on national television, look Ghanaians in the face and tell them nothing was done for youth in this country by Akufo-Addo government. So that is also okay. I want to as well tell you, as part of the nothing.
When you say that,
Beatrice.
No. It's just for clarification.
I don't have a problem.
Please, I will come to you. I will come to you. Please, I will come to you. I want her to make her point.
Do it.
Madam, yes, I'm just getting clarification.
When you say 93,000, we have already passed that debate.
So when you
say... If we said 100, you come to say 93. It's coming from the NDC. So when you say... Yes,
when you say
but
that,
what I'm telling you is
just for clarification, when you say that and the government couldn't do, or you mean the bit where the NAPCO
I didn't even tell you couldn't do, or if you feel the government didn't do enough per your expectation, that's what you should be speaking to.
Yes.
So I won't let you even go. You are misquoting me. So I am saying if any communicator feels that the government didn't do enough as they expected or she expected, she should be fair enough to say, well, I expected this to have been done. Okay. But you don't look us in the face and say we did nothing. On security, I want to quickly take you this, and you can fact check that. We are in the era of fact checking and all that. Over 700 vehicles on mobility alone for Ghana Police Service. 4 helicopters were given to what? The same Ghana Police Service. You saw the number of motorbikes, visibility of police. The only time we could feel Ghana police well-dressed, fully armed, well-resourced was under President Akufo-Addo's government. Over 4,000 motorbikes were given to them. You can fact-check that as well. Also, housing units. You saw that at the police training school. Over 320 housing units. All these things we did for the security service. Even the recruitment Gabriela spoke about. I haven't seen anybody handcuffed. I haven't seen the aura going to expose or even hold anybody with evidence that, Rabbi, you went to sell security slots at 20,000. Hence, this is the evidence we've gotten you. And the law of natural justice will tell you, until you are able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, you can't just come and sit and say somebody sold NAPCO slots. Who sold the NAPCO slots?
Okay, so
who do you have to show that the person sold?
Fact check me.
Look, please. I don't know why they can't sit when I'm talking. When I was
just
talking,
hold on.
When she was talking, you told me to hold on.
I want you to. No, I'm just telling her to hold on because I want you to land on your point.
So I want her to relax. What I am saying is that, as for fact check or not fact check,
but you were here saying
we are saying if you did call it a lie, you fact check, I fact check, you're fact checking. Then we share the facts because we all do have access to finding information and sourcing it. Finally on my point, my take on the whole process is that, look, I am with the people who believe that, look, we should depoliticize this whole process. And you see today that we all are now talking about online and people are not able to do. Yes, I will again give it to the security service that, look, it's good they have continued with the online recruitment process so that the reduction of theft, the corruption, the sale of slots would not happen, which we all want as a country. 2, I'll go back to my initial point that, look, if you have a quota of about 10,000 or 5,000, please be realistic with the numbers you want to throw out. If you find out that the young people who are applying are using their money. Don't let them get to a point of where you'll be thinking about refund, or Ghanaians will be calling for refund before you think about what you will do. And lastly, we should look at public informal sector development. How are we incentivizing businesses? What are we doing? 24-hour economy was supposed to be a very good model. We have applauded it. And what we are saying is that they should leave the bureaucracy or the bookage or the processes that is ongoing, which is equally important. Now it's over 1 year. The young people of Ghana whom we couldn't finish helping are still waiting to get them do what they said they would do for them. And with the jobs that are supposed to be created, we can't wait to have them because they are always giving us reassurance that those jobs will be created. We are ready to collaborate. We are ready to pinpoint what is not done right, and we are able to speak to issues when they are not done right.
When they are not done right. Let me just read 2 messages and I'll let you come in, man. Master Planner Junior, Policy Analyst Kintampo says, great submission by my sister Rabi. Our security service has now become an avenue for youth traumatization and harassment. But there's also a message from Mr. Stephen Payne, I believe, who says, Beatrice, Hajar Rabiatu doesn't deserve to speak on unemployment and particularly the recruitment process into security services. The MPP in the 8 years was recruiting every 6 months, and it was for their foot soldiers.
So we expect better from
you have the point, the floor.
So in her submission, she makes reference to the fact that we no longer want to see security slots sold. Quiz an admission that security slots were indeed sold. Now, I said fact check me on NAPCO. NAPCO was to create employment for 100,000 graduate youth.
Yes.
At the end of the day, which was going to cost the taxpayer 1 billion Ghana cedis every month, 12 billion Ghana cedis in a year, 48 billion Ghana cedis in 4 years. Now, in that 4 years, with that 48 billion taxpayer burden, they could only end up recruiting 33,000 in formal employment. They put them, fact check it. Majority of them were taken into customs. So for well over 7 years, we're not doing customs recruitment. Now, the remaining 77,000 were thrown back into unemployment, please. The remaining 77,000.
Okay, so these are the figures. 34,000 to over 49,000 were the ones who secured places within NAPCO. And out of that, they said that there were also long-term delays in receiving their monthly stipends, with many reporting
government of Ghana still owes NAPCO beneficiaries. Up to date, government of Ghana still owes NAPCO beneficiaries. And that they left.
Okay, if you could wrap up your point, and then I'll come to Madam Ayana.
So your 100,000 NAPCO, it was.
She just confirmed it. Retain. You see, you're not looking at the issues the way I have seen it.
You promised 100,000.
You have recruited them. You have trained them.
In fact, let me tell you, the reason why I managed to understand this
Their
president interestingly was in Central Region. And up to date, he's still chasing government of Ghana for back pay.
Well, he's not going to work for the AU. I'm sure you heard that. Please,
it's retained.
Madam Ayana.
He's not working for the AU.
No. He's part of the election. Yes.
In 2016,
yes.
The reason why the Nana Addo government came into power was because they gave us a fine list of social intervention projects that were going to go around all the
districts. Just to interrupt you, so I was just telling Madam Gabriela Tete that former President Akufo-Addo is to lead AU election observation mission to Congo.
To Congo?
Yes.
Hope he doesn't go and sleep.
Please, make your point.
Okay. Sorry. All right. So I was just saying that in the 2016 elections, Ghanaians voted for the MPP based on the fact that they were going to come and create a lot of jobs, district by district. In fact, we saw some kind of a graph roaming around in the social media. Everybody bought into it. And then when they did come, we saw also that they started things like one district, one factory, one district, one warehouse, and we were all looking forward to it. But for the 8 years that they were there, if they had gone through with what they had promised us, I don't think that we'll be singing the same story now. because those particular social interventions were such that they could have created a lot of jobs that would be continuous, not just stopgap jobs. But we didn't get it. So if we're going to talk about unemployment, I don't think that the NPP should be talking about it.
They are the last people.
Because at the end of the day, they actually disappointed us. And we are hoping that the NDC, with their 24-hour economy and the fact that they've also promised to make job creation a priority, we will be seeing some differences. But I want to disagree with this issue of if the security agencies felt that they needed just 5,000, they didn't have to open up for so many people. How would you get the best if you just say that? Limit it to a certain number. How do you expect to get the best?
Please let him make
You
a
understand?
point.
Because
Please let him make
and
a
then
point.
apart from that, who is good? You know, can you just imagine what would have happened if you went to buy and you were told that, oh, we just want this and this is the number? I don't think Ghanaians would have taken it kindly at all, the young people, because then it would have been like some people were favored. We would have heard stories like only NDC people were given the opportunity to do that. But that's how come it was opened. So the 500 or 1,000 or so that went, it was a good thing for us to get the best that there is in the system. It's not a question of just a few people. So I still stand by the fact that if we still need 200, we can still open and let 10,000 apply.
But would you agree with what Madam Gabriela Tete said, that for those whose monies were taken and eventually they are not going to be taken, government should reimburse them?
I have my problem with that as well. We all go to the British High Commission. When we are not giving visas, we don't go back for our money.
All right, thank you very much. We'll end it here. Madam Rodelini Morayana, public interest advocate. Also, Madam Gabriela Tete, NDC Central Regional Communications Officer. Of course, we've had as well Madam Rabi, Salifu, Deputy Director of Communications for the NPP. Yes, we couldn't do the others, the other topic. We do apologize for that. And then we also had Mr. Richard Kumado, who is security consultant. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this conversation. And I want to say a big thank you as well to Chic by Siba in East Legon on the Baoleshi Road for my costume this morning. Thank you very much. Well, Big Issue is also sponsored by University of Gold Coast. Whether you're aiming for a specialist MBA in marketing, communication, operations, supply chain, human resource management, finance, entrepreneurship, innovation, or business intelligence analytics, or you want to advance through dual MBA or chartered manager MBA, University of Gold Coast UGC gives you options that match your vision. And if your next step is an MSc in international relations, communication, international marketing, international law, security, diplomacy, accounting, finance, or human resource management, an LLM in international law, security, diplomacy, or an MA in biblical studies, practical theology, the pathway is open. April admission is now open. Apply today, because at the University of Gold Coast, we make it practical, flexible learning, flexible entry, and flexible payment. Study around your work and life. Choose a route that fit your background and pay in convenient installment. Your dream deserves structure. Yes, your future deserves strategy. Your purpose deserves training. Apply now, www.ugc.edu.gh, or you can call or WhatsApp now on 026-388-8555. University of Gold Coast, building leaders for the nations. And my name is Beatrice Edu. Thank you very much for joining us on The Big Issue once again. You're still here on Nido on TV3. When we come back, we'll bring you sport and some more. Do stay.